This week on Slashers, we're talking In the Mouth of Madness. Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue?
Read any good books lately? No? Because it's like loving? You know what? This is Slashers, a podcast about movies and more for those who love horror. My name is Jake, and with me, as always, is my esteemed colleague, co-host, and cohort, Brian. Brian, say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
What's up, goons?
Dude, it's a party in here.
It is.
This movie is perfect for what's going on. I feel like I'm going to try and get myself locked in an institution to stay safe from all these people trying to steal toilet paper.
Wait, are those padded walls like wiped down with Lysol wipes, or what's going on here?
I don't know. Is it 2-ply or 3-ply padding? Because I let you know, I wouldn't need a black crayon to put little crosses everywhere. I scooch my butt. Dude, how crazy is it we live in a world where people are posing as census takers and posing as people who are doing like COVID-19 swab tests, getting into somebody's house? Quick draw. Give me your money.
You know what? It just really highlights how shitty people are.
Dude.
Not really all people. I shouldn't say that in general, but like some people are.
Did you hear about the lady who is, this sounds like the premise of a joke. You hear about the lady in the shopping cart? No, this woman buys a boatload of groceries. She's in her shopping cart. She gets to her car and somebody pulls up with a gun, takes the entire shopping cart, throws it in the bed of a truck, and drives away.
Yeah. I think something like that happened in Marietta. It wasn't too far from us, which is super scary. And, you know, you look at all these people that are saying like, well, there's going to be martial law or this or that. And you hate to say this. I'm not trying to spread like false information or anything or create more of a panic. But I don't know. I feel like when you see all of these tanks and all these like militaristic people and like the National Guard and stuff, I don't think that they are there necessarily to prevent you from having rights. I think they're there to basically patrol and keep all the crazies away, or
yeah, for
least,
sure,
right? You know what I mean? Because I think there's almost like that panic mode when it comes to people when they see all of these like Marines and military people, and they're like, oh fuck, dude, this is like we're basically being taken over. And I don't think that's really the case at all.
People are like, finally, the Second Amendment's going to pay off. The right to bear arms, to raise a militia. And it's like, yeah, you're going to raise a militia. What, using Facebook? Calm the fuck down.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it is kind of funny though if you think about it. Like all of a sudden now, all the Californians became like, hey, you know what? I think I want a gun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not even getting into how frustrating that whole situation is, because people have like in the past, I mean, I'm a firearm owner. We know this. We've talked about it on the show. I'm very into firearm safety. And that's my big peeve in most of the movies we watch, is people, how they just flagrantly disregard firearm safety. It even happens in this movie. And now people are like, yeah, guns are awesome. And I'm like, excuse me, but you acted like I couldn't be a liberal and have a gun. Like, what the fuck is happening? This planet is bizarre.
Right.
But even then, I have no presumptions that like Brian and I are going to be like, hey, man, the National Guard's here with a fucking tank. I'm going to take my 9mm in the street. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely a difference between the guy who was what was that, China in Tiananmen Square, where he stood in front of the tank. It's definitely a difference between what happened there and what's happening here.
For
right.
Sure.
I mean, you see tanks in the street. They're not basically like murdering everybody. Like, nah, we'll be okay.
Yet, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't age like milk, right?
Yeah.
This is the aliens who come up at the end like an artificial intelligence, and they find this recording like, oh, that is wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same, you have to always look at the brighter side of things. And you have to
look on the bright side of life. My second favorite film ending of all time.
There you go.
You know the first?
No.
We've talked about it. It's the end of Rocky 3. My favorite ending of any movie ever. It's just two guys. They don't have to have anybody know. It's just the pride and honor of seeing who's the best. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill. And it's made even better by Apollo, when you have Rocky Balboa be like, oh no, your dad won. Like, that's the coolest shit to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know it has nothing to do with horror, but please tell me if you love it or hate it. What's your favorite ending of a movie ever?
Oh God, put me on the spot here. I don't know. I think I like the ending of
Don't worry about impressing
Primal
people.
Fear.
Ooh.
Right.
He's like, I'm sorry if I hurt your neck. Blah, blah, blah. That one?
Primal Fear, right? With Edward Norton.
Yeah, when he's
exactly. Yeah. And he's essentially like, oh, yeah, I just
gotcha, bitch.
I just fucked you, the counselor. Like, I wasn't really fucked at all. This is that. Double jeopardy, boom, bing, bang, boom, legal jargon.
Which is also a fun movie with Ashley Judd, where she's like, I already got convicted of your murder, so I'm gonna shoot you in the fucking face. That's Ashley Judd.
I've never seen that movie.
Well, I just gave you the ending.
Is it pretty good though?
It's not bad. So he basically frames his wife for murder so he can like do some insurance scam. So she goes to jail and like loses her kid and loses her life. She gets out of jail and she's like, well, I'm just going to murder you because I can't be found guilty of it again. I've already served my time. So she literally goes and fucking kills the guy.
That's fucking
It's
cool.
pretty cool. I might be getting that wrong. I haven't seen it since like middle school, but I remember really liking it and thinking she was a babe.
I remember the first time watching Primal Fear though and just being like, no fucking way.
What?
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy, right?
Dude, we've talked about this in the show about 1,000 times, so sorry, but we're gonna do it. The two of my favorite twist endings of all time. Well, one of them's not really a twist; it's more of a reveal. But like Usual Suspects, awesome ending,
oh, it's
awesome.
amazing. It's
And then
amazing.
Seven, right? And so both times I've shown my wife those movies for the first time, she fucking falls asleep from like the 10 minutes in until the very end, and she wakes up. She's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand the payoff. Like when the coffee cup breaks, god damn it."
Right. Yeah, that whole little gimp walking, all of a sudden I'm walking straight, and you're just like,
You can tell by the way I run my work.
that's fucking crazy. Was it Kaiser Soze? Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
Yep.
Yeah. Grabbing people's junk in a bar. Gonna go far. In the backseat of your car. What'd you think of him playing Lex Luthor? I liked him. A lot of people thought he was like chewing the scenery in Superman Returns.
Never saw it.
Where he's like screaming.
Really?
Yeah. He's not bad. The movie's just kind of janky. It's probably because it starred a guy who was a rapist, and then you have the director by a guy who's a rapist.
I feel like
a little weird.
Any of his shit pre-rapist, I feel like I'm okay with watching. It's like any of the stuff after the fact of him getting like, I don't know, maybe that doesn't really make sense because I feel like as soon as
he's always been, as soon as the unveil happened.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, what was he really in after the fact? It was just really the that
stupid
streaming
vignettes
shit.
that they did.
What was that streaming shit?
In House of Cards.
Well, I never watched that either. But
after he got pulled from the show, he started doing these vignettes where he was like talking to the audience in the character, and you're like, no. And I mentioned that on this horror podcast because that was so like fucking cringy. It was terrible. I was
Dude,
like,
that's awful.
Please don't.
That's awkward.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That'd be like the dad from Meteor Man being Meteor Man. And you're like, no, it's still stupid.
What about American Beauty? Did you like that one?
No.
Yeah.
The whole like statutory stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't really a fan either. It was a little weird.
And Thora Birch is underage. Her parents had to be on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so weird.
That's weird.
And also, she's a little girl from Hocus Pocus. Ugh. That movie just made me feel all sorts of like voyeuristic and weird. And fucking weirdo Wes Bentley, where he's like, I'm gonna fucking come, watching a stupid plastic bag. But I thought he'd make a great Batman at one point.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
That's interesting.
Piercing
Better than
blue
fucking what's his face from Twilight.
Robert Pattinson. I'm not mad at it. I'll be honest with you. He has
We'll see
potential.
how it goes.
Well, I like not a lot of people like
Ben Affleck. So
I still have my X'd out through Batfleck shirt. But Pattinson, I think, can do the Batman. And if you've watched that show, it's like 65 to 75% awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be more that kind of a vein. But the true Batman that I want was Ben McKenzie, the guy who played Ryan in the OC, who is Jim Gordon in Gotham. Because I haven't watched Gotham, but he did the voice of Batman in the Year One adaptation, and it was great. And I was sitting there going like, man, you took the wrong character from Gotham, my friend. So let's just talk about the actual movie we're supposed to do. Shall we get into the statistics of the week on In the Mouth of Madness?
Let's do it.
So made on a budget of $8 million, it grossed $8.9 million domestically and made a whopping $1,254 internationally.
Seems so rough, right? When it comes to these kind of movies, I think something that, how do you really market something like this, right? Because again, we were talking about this earlier. It goes across so many different ranges of thing. Is this like a body horror, or is this a religious horror, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about devils? Are you talking about like aliens? Are you talking about what are you trying to market this movie as, right?
Yeah.
And then you're, as a fan, you're just like, I'm not really sure what this is about.
Yeah,
I guess I can watch it because it's a John Carpenter, and that's what we're going to go with.
It's one of the weird things about it is in some of the marketing materials I saw, it was like, from the guy who brought you Halloween, and then he brought you Christine.
Right.
And
So,
you're like,
so they're essentially just like, yeah, let me just remind you of all the great things this guy did.
all the movies, this is not. Yeah. Like, there's nothing linear. Like, Halloween is a guy with a mask and a knife. That's simple. Christine, haunted car. This movie, everything. D, all of the above. There's a slash.
Yeah.
There's even like some weird, bondage fetish stuff going on. You're just like, okay, neato.
There's some strange tentacles going on, obviously reminiscent of The Thing, but
Tentacle porn.
tentacle porn.
Yep. And I'm all about it. Opening weekend in Italia was December 10th, 1994, but here in the US of A, it was February 3rd, 1995. It went up against the Jerky Boys movie.
Oh, dude, those guys are fucking classic, man.
Wow.
You remember those like crank calls they used to do?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Fuck yeah, man.
So here's a fun one. The old lady from this movie was also...
Yeah, dude, Billy Madison's grandma.
Well, it's Happy Gilmore's grandma, but then
yeah, okay, my bad.
just Adam Sandler. So then
Damn
Billy
it,
Madison.
I fucked that one up.
It was
I'm
close.
like, how many times I watched those movies as a kid? And I fucked it up.
They should have just made it a movie and then a sequel. They shouldn't have done it as... He plays the exact same character. His acting is like indistinguishable. And then also came out the next week was The Quick and the Dead by Sam Raimi. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. It's fun. The week after that, the Brady Bunch movie,
Oh, boy.
Heavyweights, and The Walking Dead.
Heavyweight's so fucking good.
Yeah, The Walking Dead, not the Robert Kirkman stuff. It's actually a Vietnam War movie.
I feel like the Heavyweights could be almost be like a horror movie.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Dude, Ben Stiller, that movie's fucking terrifying when he gives the kid the chocolate Hershey's kiss.
It's so fucked.
Take
It's
it
so
from my
fucked.
hand. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Then the next month they had The Mangler came out, which we've already talked about, which is the the steam dryer cleaner from hell that's possessed and kills people.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And then a couple weeks later was Candyman Farewell to Flesh. Bye-bye. So if you have $5 to spend at the movies, are you seeing this or are you seeing one of these other movies?
I think it's either Billy Madison or Heavyweights.
Yeah, I can't
That's
be mad
just
at that.
me being completely brutally honest with you.
Yeah, that's us having been staring outside. I've seen the horrors of the world when I stood in line at every grocery store I went to today, and I literally shoved a Lysol wipe up my nose to make sure I didn't bring home COVID-19 to my pregnant wife. Running time on this film.
Perfect.
Oh,
It's amazing.
it's crazy how much they get into this movie. You know? Usually something that's this exhaustively, like, just a potpourri of nonsense is like 17 hours long, or
Right.
at least it feels like it.
Right.
But this, it's like, oh, okay, well, it was batshit
And
crazy, but it's done.
What's so great about it is, and I want to say it's one of the parts in the movie that absolutely makes no sense to me. Maybe I just overlooked it. It was when he's looking at all the covers, and then all of a sudden a little light bulb goes over in his head, and he starts cutting out all of the things. And I'm like, wait, so I'm trying to look at all the covers and see like what he's cutting out, and like, how would he be able to piece together all of these things to make out like some sort of symbol?
There's a little red line.
So there's a red line on each cover.
Exactly.
And
So that's why they briefly mentioned Sutter Cane is the one who has the final authorization.
Because that completely blew over my head. I was just like, do you know what? I feel like it's a little too easy for him to figure this shit out. So again, maybe that's just me. But I'm glad that they just skipped over all of that shit, and it wasn't him just like on a pegboard, like with all the fucking strings.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like trying to figure shit out, you know?
Exactly. And also, it's a little frustrating because I kind of wish they would have, like, J.R. Tolkien, he did all the maps for his books, right? They look terrible. They look like they were drawn with a kid with, yeah. But I wish that Sutter Cane had actually drawn them instead of just had like the authorization. So you're like, oh, this is this guy's own artistic. Like, it'd be easier to track, but they literally say he like has the right to like okay it. It's very odd. And also just like, I don't know. Whatever, we'll get into it. Directed by our boy Johnny Carpenter. I found somebody online who was like, Jesus Christ had the initials JC, like John Carpenter, and he was also a carpenter. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? No.
Yeah, this is also somebody that waits for John Carpenter to get home in his house in the sheets of his fucking bed.
He's like, you want to smoke weed and we can play some music together?
He's like, God damn it, I'm going to call the cops again. You know, like this is the third time this week. What the fuck?
So did you know that the first winner of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire also had the name John Carpenter?
That's weird.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And when I was doing research, I was like, hey, I don't want to hear a Reddit AMA with that guy. Who the fuck cares?
That's pretty good.
So Michael De Luca wrote this script in the late 80s. And then one of the first directors he offered it to was Carpenter, who passed on it. And then it went into production at New Line in 89 with Tony Randall, who did Children of the Night and Hellbound, the Hellraiser 2. And then it went to Mary Lambert, who did Pet Sematary from our first episode. And then a few years later, it goes back to Carpenter, who directed it.
Wow.
That's crazy,
right?
That
is crazy. And none of it changed as far as script wise. It all just stayed kind of intact.
Because it's the head of New Line. That's like, so Michael De Luca only wrote 2 scripts. He never did anything else. I mean, he came up with stories that became movies, but he was the president of New Line. So he did all like the business nuts and bolts. The only 2 scripts he ever did was Freddy's Dead and this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, we'll get into some of the weird overlaps.
It almost seems like what happened with this script happened in the movie, right? Where Kane's like, here, you're taking this and you're giving this to somebody else. And he's like, fuck that, I don't want this. And so it goes to somebody else. And then they're like, nah, here, you're going to get this again.
You can't escape it. Yeah. So Carpenter said of the script, there's something unseen that wants to take the world from us. And I like that a little better because it's not just that they want to come back. It's that they want to take something from us with the ancient ones. So just, when you're going through our little things, keep that in the back of your brain. And he compared the writing that De Luca had to the writing of HP Lovecraft. And specifically, he gave the reference of The Outsider, which if you've seen our Castle Freak or you've listened to our Castle Freak episode, you know The Outsider was written by HP Lovecraft. It's some guy who wakes up in this crazy place and he's running around and he ends up in a room with a bunch of people who run away, and he looks and he sees this repulsing figure in a mirror, and then he realizes that it's
everybody was afraid of him.
Exactly. And so basically what he said is like with this movie and with that, it all leads up to the one gasp. He says, quote, give a gasp at the very end, that one last sentence. And I was like, wow, that's actually really insightful. Like that is the way I felt reading that short story. And that's the way I felt watching this movie.
Yeah, I mean, and what's really cool about this movie compared to a lot of others is the gasp isn't just some cheesy fucking
waka waka.
Exactly, right? And that's unfortunate when it comes to a lot of these great movies where you're like, okay, 95% of this movie is fucking amazing. And then it's just that one last hand coming out from whatever. And then you're like, oh, that's so scary.
Or like the movie where the movie is the plot twist, like The Village. Okay. They're not really in ye oldie times. What the fuck ever. Like, what
right.
This movie has way more substance than just that kind of ending. So
yeah, absolutely.
Helps. Like I said, De Luca did this. He also did Lawnmower Man, A Suburban Nightmare, which was a short film directed by James Gonis, not Gonads. And it was a dollar baby from Stephen King. We actually had applied to be one of the dollar babies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
we just
cool.
never followed through with it because we had to do like a sample. But anyway, before Lawnmower Man was the movie with Pierce Brosnan, he did his own short film version of it.
Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah, right. You get to see Rene Russo's butt in that movie. I've seen it a bunch of times. And then she became Freya from Thor. And let me tell you, my wang was Thor after seeing Thomas Crown Affair. Am I right?
Yeah, buddy.
Hey, you. Low key, it was kind of the hottest thing I've ever seen. Boom.
Did you know that movie's a remake?
Oh, yeah. From the Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There's
Apparently
no butts
the
in the
original
original.
is fucking like really good.
But there's no butts.
That's true.
So it's a waste of my time. I'm a butts only guy. I don't waste my time with these other fucking movies. And so De Luca was predominantly, like I said, he was the head of New Line. He was also an executive producer on Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Freddy's Dead, The Mask, 7, Boogie Nights, Last Man Standing, Lost in Space, Blade, Pleasantville, American History X, Austin Powers, Detroit Rock City, Little Nicky, and the Fright Night remake. So
you can say he's done some good stuff.
Yeah, dude, like all those movies, I've seen all of them and I love them all. Like, remember Pleasantville where the lady's in black and white and then she finger fucks herself and she becomes in color? You remember that? You remember that, Brian? You remember that?
I do actually.
Dude.
It's fucking great.
It's beautiful. I've never been moved internally It's usually externally.
Based off of somebody else moving things internally.
Exactly. Usually it's a lot of external rigidification, fossilization. I was going to say falsification. I was like, nope, it's not fake. It's all real, baby.
Yeah, as far as I
all
know.
3.5 inches, as real as it comes.
Hey, all you need is 1 inch.
Yeah, and recently, on January 3rd, he became the chairman of the MGM Motion Picture Group. So that's
wow.
nice. Yeah, good for him.
I mean, the guy's definitely been through a ringer. He knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like it's somebody's like fucking stepson who's
exactly
just like,
right.
well, I mean,
nepotism. I'm Donald Trump Jr. and I'm here. My favorite roast I've ever seen is Ivanka Trump is working from home, and so some girl retweeted and was like, "Doing what?" Produced
good.
by Sandy King Carpenter, music by John Carpenter and Jim Lang, who had never worked before except for some TV shit. And Carpenter called it a, quote, really terrific collaboration. What'd you think?
I really like the metal in the beginning, and in the end, I thought it was great, right?
In the end, it doesn't even matter.
Oh.
I've come so far, got so whatever. Who gives a shit?
What was that shitty band that you just quoted?
Hey, the guy killed himself. You can't say it was shitty.
No, I can still say it's shitty. I'm sorry. I'm not
One
a fan.
day, you don't know why.
Don't,
it
just
doesn't
stop.
even matter how hard you try.
It's like Eminem trying to do rock.
Oh, Kid Rock. Because I'm a cowboy, baby.
Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't hate that song because it's in Ready to Rumble, which is your favorite movie
That's
of all
true.
time.
Actually, just saw a picture of Kid Rock that he just posted on Instagram with Kenny Rogers.
Oh.
R.I.P.
So sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that Kid Rock is being subpoenaed to provide a glass dildo in an Insane Clown Posse criminal case?
What?
I read the headline and I was like,
you can't even make that up.
I don't know if it's real or not. It didn't come from the hardtimes.net. So I was like, this is probably, I don't want to feel this in my body. Nope. Not just the glass dildo, but like the idea of what's behind that. But what was interesting is Carpenter was talking about how he was very improvisational. He does the music to the image, but Lang was a very structured bass, which is pretty rad. And apparently Carpenter had wanted to enter Sandman for the beginning where they're printing the books.
That's perfect.
And you can kind of feel that it's not a shameless tawdry remake where it's trying to do the same song, but it's certainly you get that kind of that mojo going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makeup was done by ILM and K&B Effects with Greg Nicotero. Howard Berger was actually the head of a team of 25 different people. And what's crazy, so you'll remember one of the monsters is this giant thing. They called it the Monster Mass, which was 18 feet deep and 18 feet wide and had a bunch of puppeteers
It's
doing
like the
it.
wall, right? The monster wall.
That's just one of them, though. They had other ones, too. Like there was the Meatball Eater and Crab Monster.
Fuck.
And what's super funny is John Carpenter said of Meatball Eater, I like Meatball. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. That's so good. It totally, reminiscent of like The Thing and The Void.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, especially like all the little tentacles and the creepy little mouth like movements going on there. It kind of reminded me of Cenobites.
I could totally see that. I feel like this is kind of like the halfway between.
Yeah.
Like if there was a hell priest that had tentacles coming out of his fucking face.
Yeah, that'd be fucking cool.
Which I'm all about. Now, which name do you like best for Pinhead? Is it Pinhead, Lean Cenobite, or Hell Priest?
Hell Priest.
I like that better too, but he's introduced in the first one as the lead Cenobite, so I'm fine with those two. But I don't like Pinhead because I always think of the movie Freaks.
I almost feel like Hell Priest could be the name of like a metal band.
Hell yeah, Hell Priest, yeah.
Judas Priest, I get it, but
Judas Priest can suck my nuts.
Hey man, they're
not a fan.
Great band.
If I have to choose between them and Iron Maiden,
I know every fucking time.
Well, come on. Name one Iron Maiden song that isn't the best thing you've ever heard.
Hellbent in Leather. Why not?
If you're not wearing a gimp suit and you're singing that song, you're a fucking poser. Quote me on it.
You don't want me in a gimp suit.
Who says that? You know that character I made of you in WWF No Mercy?
Oh boy.
You haven't seen its alternate costume.
Oh man. It's like Zane in Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He looks like a redneck and then also he's just like in a full gimp suit.
You know what I like? So what I do is I made your finishing move the stink face from Rikishi. And I make you give me that finishing move day after day. Balls deep. Shall we get into nicknames? Probably. Should have gone past that faster.
Nicknames. We got Sam Neill as John Trent. Anything for him? Satanic Sam.
Yep, they have to do it because it's true to
it's
form.
Always going to be Satanic Sam.
Yeah, I think it has to be. Even if we go somehow and end up do Jurassic Park 3, How the
Satanic
fuck,
Sam.
Yeah, exactly. With the fucking phone that gets shit out the ass of an Allosaurus. It actually is a horror movie for the phone. According to John Carpenter, Sam Neill thought of this film as a comedy, which is why he plays it so wacky for some of it, which it works for me. I like it. He just seems so like smarmy and kind of ridiculous.
Like in the beginning, right? Especially like sitting at the restaurant where he's just like so full of himself. We're like, oh, I like it. It's not really like that fun for me. I like it when there's like more of a con and like the guy he masters his craft.
Yeah.
And you're
Humble
like,
brag.
oh, dude, just shut the fuck up, man.
I wish that you had more time in the asylum to see the character progression.
Yeah.
Because it is such a staunch contrast, but I just like to see, because I like his acting. I'd like to see him kind of play that around in that a little bit more. But he's great. I mean, it's a one-man show. Nobody else in this movie is anywhere near as good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's Sutter Cane or whoever the fuck, like, no.
Yeah, so now we have Julie Carmen as Linda Stiles.
You know who her dad is?
I do not.
Cesar Romero. You might remember has the Joker who was too cool to shave his fucking mustache, so he just painted over it from the Adam West TV show.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that dude.
Oh, no.
The coolest shit I ever heard. So you gotta love that Sam Neill's kind of romance interest came out of the Joker's nutsack.
That's interesting. So how do you figure?
Because she's his kid.
George Romero.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Cesar Romero.
See, because you said George Romero.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Wow, that fucked that up. It shows you what a horrorhead I am, right?
So the guy was like, wait, I don't understand how that works.
It's so they shared a nutsack. They were Siamese twins. Siamese twins, not tweens. They were twins.
We're talking about Siamese tweens nutsacks. Jesus.
Oh, this is our best episode yet. Whoopsie.
Oh, it's not George Romero. It's not Cesar Romero.
It's that shared nutsack. Oh, could you imagine like divvying up the nuts when you're doing the separation surgery? Like who gets lefty?
One would probably itch more than the other.
Isn't it the truth?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pinch and roll guy. Even if they're not itching, it's like the sense of relief I get.
I feel like as we get older, it changes.
Dude, my nutsack's droopy. It's super droops.
You're like looking down like, hey,
What
what's
happened?
going on there?
What's that slapping against my ankle?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Is it my other ankle? Nope. It's all righty. Oh, God. It's bristly.
You got anything for the tweens kid?
No, she's bland as fuck, man.
She really is. I mean, she was like a mole, right? Within the film. So like she was a plant. She was a decoy. She wasn't really even there, or was she? She was written in, but she wasn't there, right? That's what I got from watching it. It's like he goes up to the bigwig guy, what the fuck's his name? Charlton Heston or whatever. And he's like, dude, I don't even know who the fuck you're talking about, you know? And you're like, wait, so was she even there? Or I don't really know. And that's something where you're like, okay, this is like American Psycho.
Does she turn into a tentacle rapey monster too?
She fucking goes backwards on the ground and moves around, and her neck is twisted upside down.
The girl from The Ring, yeah. But does she do any tentacles? Because I was going to call it the bookworm if she does.
Oh, yes, she does actually, because she's in the bathroom when he goes back to the hotel for the second time.
Yeah.
And there's tentacles flying underneath the doorway.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bookworm.
That's good.
So she couldn't rehearse with Sam Neill because he was like too fucking busy. Because this movie came out after Jurassic Park. And so you could imagine his life was kind of preoccupied at the time.
Yeah.
And so she rehearsed with Jürgen Prochnow for a week before recording the film, and which I think, makes you wish that they had scenes that meant fucking anything.
Yeah, no shit, right?
It's like, oh, I'm just going to kiss you and grope the back of your Professor Quirrell head.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just all of that seems so strange, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we're talking about like nicknames, so we're not really getting too much in the film. But like, it just seemed strange how that should have been more of like a twist,
right?
But like when you're watching, you're just like,
sure,
okay,
go for it, man. You do you.
Like, I mean, maybe if they had more of like a love interest between Satanic Sam and the bookworm, you'd be like, oh, that bitch. But like, there wasn't even any like chemistry in or anything, and you're just like, okay,
yeah. He just comes across as leery until she's possessed, and then she's like, tongue fuck me. And so in 1993, this is super weird. Apparently, John Carpenter was talking to her about the millennium 7 years before Y2K, and he was talking about how art changes at the time of a millennium and becomes more fundamentalist. And I was just like, it's so obtuse and weird because I saw her, answer that question like 2017. And so it means like it was weird enough for her to remember it almost over 20 years later.
That is really weird. I don't know. It seems like something where Carpenter just like took like fat rip and you're just like, let's talk about fucking shit that's on the dollar bill, man.
Right. It's all a conspiracy. And so he had her model her character off of Rosalind Russell, the
Who's
actress. She's a character actress, and who like kind of her gimmick was wearing like all white, which is why she has the kind of pastiche of either whites or neutral colors.
I thought it was interesting how she would always wear the whites, but then you look at the picture in the hotel, and it was the dude wearing the all white, and the girl was not.
Ooh. I picked up on that as well. I don't know that it means anything, but apparently all of her sweaters were hand knit, and they were given to her along with a pearl necklace from Sandy King Carpenter, which means something very different than getting a pearl necklace from John Carpenter.
He was going to offer her that, but
his wife was there as the executive producer.
Motherfucker. I know that is not what I thought it is.
Right. Do not stop. She said that actually the worst part of filming was the contact lenses she had to do. And they had to actually apply numbing drops to her eyes. But because they were numb, she couldn't actually operate her eyelids. So they had to be held open.
Fuck.
Awful, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's one thing that I never caught on was that everybody's eyes were blue within the film. Did you notice that?
Yep. That's the whole point is because it's all from him.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I didn't think to look at it. I didn't think to look at it that way until after the fact when I was looking at the trivia and I was just like, wait, what? And then you kind of have a close up every now and again when it comes to these kids that just have like the fucking weird like double eyeball or the double retina, I guess you'd call it. Everybody has double eyeballs. Fucking moron.
Not everybody. Think about Snake Plissken. Don't be insensitive. Mad Eye Moody or whatever. Did you know that she is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a master's degree in clinical psychology?
None of that applied to any of this in the movie.
No, at all. I would never have guessed that with her bland ass character. There were no layers or anything.
Oh, man.
We had Jurgen Prochnow as Sutter Cane, who's been in Das Boot, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, Judge Dredd, House of the Dead. He'd been in some shit.
I mean, his face is very memorable, right? And it's one of those things where you're just like, I can't really put my tongue on where he's from, but I know he's been in a lot of shit. But that fucking hair, though, it's pretty crazy.
It's wacky.
It's just like bedhead. Yeah. That's what I imagine. He's just like, I'm gonna get out of bed and I'm just gonna fucking show up.
Did you ever have a bedhead stick?
What?
But bedhead, like back in the 90s or like early 2000s, where it was like a stick of like pomade that you like rub in your hair to look
and
disheveled.
It never worked. It never worked for me. You're right. And then you look at like pictures, or you look at like anytime I see stuff on TV where it looks like a guy like literally, and it's like a model, right? And he just like gets out of bed and puts on like a shirt and then like fucking whatever, and you're like, nobody's hair looks like that.
Nobody
ever.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
But I love when they make fun of Joel McHale on Community for that same exact thing. Which if you're not watching Community while you're stuck in quarantine, you're missing out.
I was really sad when they ended up kind of canceling. They didn't really cancel it, but they like seemed like they cut it short a little bit. I think they were having a lot of issues with what's his face.
Oh yeah, with Chevy Chase. That's why they killed him off. But then also the last season was on Yahoo. So
that's right. That's right. I think there
was
wasn't there a strike?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where the Russo brothers really cut their teeth before becoming like the guys who directed the most gigantic film franchise ever with the Avengers. So I
want to say one of my early favorite shows that I remember watching, this kind of go way off, but remember Prison Break? I remember, but I never watched it. The first 1 or 2 seasons were fucking amazing, and then they had a strike, and then they had a bunch of scabbies be like, well, I think this would be cool, and then it just goes way the fuck off the rails, and you're like, nope, I'm lost.
Like Quantum of Solace, where it's like, what's happening? Did he just drink oil? What the fuck? The only thing I know about Prison Break is I always thought that the big brother looked like Batista.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, did you have a nickname for Jurgen?
bedhead.
Okay, sounds perfect. David Warner, our boy from The Exorcist and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze, played Dr. Wren. Really inconsequential. Is in 2 scenes. Doesn't need a nickname.
Nope.
But I love him. I'll watch anything that's got him in it. And he's in a lot of stuff. John Glover as Saperstein, Benny Casey as Robinson. Let's just skip all the way down.
There's a lot of them. Yeah. Was it, did you happen to notice that, was it Hayden Christensen?
Right?
Yeah.
Little Darth Vader. That's what turns his ass to the dark side. He's like a hole into hell.
Yeah, man. As soon as he says, hey, you know where Hobbes is? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like Calvin and Hobbes?
Is it called Old Hob? I think it's called Old Hob, right?
Hobbes End.
Hobbes End. God damn it. It was one of those.
It's not bad. People were like, oh, Hobbes, a word that you used to use for the devil. Yep. Okay. Cool. Neat.
Alrighty.
Words happen, don't they? So, for those of you who are still catching up to the new format of the show, we're not really doing the Slay by Play that we used to, and we're going to kind of consolidate recapitation and Slay by Play into one nice, short form where we're not going to sit and get into the absolute minutia of every single scene of the movie, because that's tedious. And especially if you're already on quarantine, you can just watch the movie instead of having us tell you about the movie. We're going to talk about the substance thereof and our thinks and thoughts and trivias. So do you want to go through it? We'll start together?
Yeah, let's start together, man.
All I can think of when I'm watching this movie, this is the rated R version of Jack Black's Goosebumps movie.
Never seen it.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Is it good?
It's cute. It's, for a kid's movie, it's super cute.
So everything's written into the books about them.
Yeah. So, well, he has the books, and when the books open, the actual monsters from the books come out, and so it's real. And
so it's like that movie Scary Monsters and whatever things, that new one that just came out, right? You know what I'm talking about? The Scary Stories.
It's Still in the Dark. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something similar like that?
I could see that.
Okay.
I probably should have said that to keep some street cred, right? That was PG-13, so not far off.
Right.
The opening song, it's a jammer. And that's when they're printing off the Sutter Cane, his newest book. And so you got Sam Neill who's being dragged to the asylum, and he knees the dude in the nads. And then he gets
so good.
He gets thrown in.
Sorry about the swollen nads.
Look, I'm sorry about the balls. It was a lucky shot. That's all.
It's so good, dude. Because you see the frame of the guy, and then you see the silhouette of the hair, and you're like, who is this fucking weirdo? Because in my mind, I'm not imagining that being Sam Neill at all.
Yeah. I know. All I could think
what
about
a twist.
Was his fancy ass footwear as he's in a straitjacket. I was like, come on now. You can't have nicer shoes than me and be taken into a padded room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but when he gets there, you're just like, damn, that is a comfy ass room.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to sleep on that bed.
Mm-mm. Just bounce off the walls. So apparently that asylum is actually a water treatment plant in Toronto.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, hey, that's kind of relatable.
Yeah. It's been in other films as an asylum as well, which is interesting.
And then it changed because after 9/11, no longer allowed to be in there to fucking do any of that shit.
Awkward.
Let's just say safety protocol.
Yeah, seriously. It was a pre-9/11 world.
It's true.
He said unironically because it came out several years before. So when he's playing crazy and he's even saying, I'm not insane, I think he delivered it too straight. He needed to kind of seem like he was giving a line for the payoff at the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself, but he's saying it to the camera a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we cut and we're back in time, and it's him doing an interrogation of some dude. And he's like, oh, yeah, I could tell that you burned your own shit down because she's wearing a coat.
Dude, that was so cheesy.
Yeah,
that whole thing
hacky.
was super cheesy, right? And you're like, I get it. I have to have this little background about me being an investigator and having let me just go ahead and like you said, I'm just going to jerk myself off and pat myself on the back at the same time by explaining how amazing I am at getting all this background information on you. And you're a slime ball, basically. While at the same time, he's ultimately the slime ball, right? You're like, okay, you're trying to convince yourself that you're not the slime ball by painting it on somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. People that commit insurance fraud, they are pretty sleazy. Don't get me wrong.
You're telling me. That's my profession. But yeah, I see what you mean. I'd rather have them focus on something a little bit more elaborate in terms of his investigation work, because nothing's really that impressive about it. It's more deductive rather than investigatory, where he's like, well, if you're wearing it and you said it burned, it couldn't have burned, so therefore blah. but like they don't go into the actual facts of him investigating to find it. So you're like, well, then why are they putting all this trust that he'll be able to investigate and find Sutter Cane?
Right. Yeah.
Little odd. So then he and the guy whose money he saved are out at lunch, and they're just like, "What's up, dog?" And they're sitting there. I love this shot. This is so rad, where it's Sutter Cane's manager who kills some people, comes out from the video rental store across the street with an axe, shatters the window. "Do you read Sutter Cane?"
That's so fucking cheesy. It's so cheesy. I don't know. Did you like it?
I love it. It's so stupid.
I mean, there's like so many potential things that a guy can say after he shatters a window and then stares menacingly up at somebody with an axe in his hand. And he just says, "Do you read Sutter Cane?"
Could you imagine if he's like, "Aren't windows a pain?" That's the best fun I could come up with.
I mean,
or he breaks the window, right? He breaks the window and he says, "I was framed." Huh? Are you blind? Because window blinds. No?
Yeah. That was good.
Oh, it looks like my jokes are going up curtains. Da.
It just seems like he could have gone with something a little more cryptic than that.
Yeah, absolutely, for certain. I love when he starts reading the books and even when he goes to the bookstore and there's the creepy kid and stuff. Then when he's on his way home,
what does the kid say? He sees you?
Yeah.
That's a little creepy.
Not a fan. If somebody says that shit to me, they're getting a right hook to the face. But when he's, there's the two things when he's walking home. He sees the cop brutalizing the guy. And then there's
what does he say? "Do you want some? You want some, bud?"
Like, "You want to come over here? You want to taste my billy club? Huh?"
Is that what they call it these days?
Right. My baton. And so he like rips a little bit of the poster, which comes into play later. But I love when he starts having the crazy dreams, that the makeup on the cop where he looks fucked up.
Yeah, he almost looks like he has like a pig face.
It's rad.
It's fucking cool.
I love that one. That's probably my favorite of the makeups. It's just creepy. It reminds me of Maniac Cop too.
Yeah,
which I love.
I also like the girl that has like the kind of like the weird melted face off to the side. It reminds me of one of the people from Mars in Total Recall.
Oh, for sure. Get your ass to Mars.
There you go. Who the fuck is Quaid?
Yeah. One of the things I saw, people were like, "Oh, like she's clearly the template for the nurse in Silent Hill." And I was like, how do you know what the nurse looked like? Because PS1 graphics are so
fucking
bad.
Awful.
Dude,
right?
it's so grainy.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of ROM stuff and I'm like,
dude, all those old school, was it Resident Evil? Jesus. That was on PS1, right?
Yeah, and then they had it on Resident Evil 2, I think, made it to N64, and there were a couple other ones. But
my God, running through a hallway into another door, and it's just like literally, okay, turn black screen, and then it's a door opening, and then it's another black screen, and then you're in the room, and then you're like, fuck, I forgot something, and then you turn around, you go back, and you're like, I just spent like 10 minutes going literally from one room to another.
Dude, the best game with preset camera angles ever is Dino Crisis 2. If you've never played it, treat yourself. It's the best shit. It holds up. I played it recently. There's a bunch of raptors, and I got a shotgun. I was like, fuck y'all.
Damn.
It's so fun.
Cool. I remember one of the first games I recall playing that had dinosaurs in it, Turok.
Oh, yeah. Super fun.
Fucking great, right?
Yeah. All the cheat codes are great for it. So then we get to the arts and crafts with the covers, and he cuts off the red lines and sticks them together like a jigsaw puzzle and finds Hobbs End. And it's super weird. So they go to Charlton Heston and they're like, "Sup, dog?" And then you have Stiles, who's Cesar Romero's offspring. I don't know what we're going to call her.
Or George Romero's offspring.
George, yeah. The tween sperm, we'll call it.
The bookworm.
Yeah, they're a bookworm. There we go. Tween sperm bookworm. That's a
yikes,
dude. That's the haiku of the week. But they agree they're going to go investigate, and so she's sitting there and she throws a bag of potato chips at him while he's driving, and he says, "Never ever throw chips at a driver." This is how you know he's crazy, because he's from England and they call those crisps. Chips are French fries. So clearly he's crazy. And he's overly Americanized. But what's weird, this is another thing, inconsistencies, right? So he's already overly Americanized calling them chips, right? But then when he's singing America the Beautiful by Michael W. Smith later, he gets it wrong. Inconsistent.
Oh, interesting.
The Mouth of Madness is literally talking about the mouth that eats chips, the mouth that sings songs.
He wouldn't have had one over on you, right, Jake? You would have been like, man, you know what? Something's not right.
Something's not right in the
axe to the face.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh God. I always love to think that, like, you know those scenes in the movie where it's the two guys who look exactly alike and you're like, you gotta shoot one of them, save the one. I always think that, like, with my luck, I would definitely shoot my, like, if it was you and you, I would shoot the real you and evil twin wins 100% of the time.
Yeah. I always imagine myself in these situations in movies where they run and jump in front of a bullet, and I would just clearly miss the bullet.
On The Simpsons, where the guy gets shot like 3 times and the dude jumps and gets one of the shots, then he shoots him again.
That would be me. Yeah. High risk situations, maybe not the best.
Timing a bullet? That's fucking ridiculous.
That's true. I mean, honestly, how fast can you move from one spot to another by jumping? Faster than a bullet? I don't know.
Yeah, and if you're that fast, to stop the guy from shooting the bullet. What the fuck? So as they're driving, they're talking about reality, and he says, whoa, we're not talking about reality here. We're talking about fiction. It's different, you know. And she says, a reality is just what we all tell each other it is. Sane and insane could easily switch places. If the insane were to become the majority, you would find yourself locked in a padded cell, wondering what happened to the world. Spoilers, lady just gave away the whole movie.
Or real life right now.
Oh, God. So true. So there's a scene that's pretty famous where he's asleep and she's driving, and then she sees Crazy Boy on the bicycle.
You know what this reminds me of?
What?
It totally reminds me of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. Well, he's driving in the middle of the night with Mickey. Is it Mickey? Yeah. And he sees all this random shit on the side of the road, right?
I love it.
Yeah. It's fucking great. Dude,
Tell Large Marge sent ya.
What's up with that kid's fucking mask? Like,
looks terrible.
Little Benjamin Button kid going on, dude. I don't know.
He looks like Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It was so fucking weird.
But the fact that it's bad almost makes it creepier.
Yeah, I can see that.
With his voice coming out of it, like, he won't let me leave. You're like, this is just so poorly done.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated.
Yeah, I think it was, I mean, the whole scene where the lines blur, they go away, all of a sudden she hits him, right? And you're just like, what in the fuck is going on? Okay, first of all, I thought that was kind of neat. But then they get out of the car, and then you look at the no damage to the car, and you're like, oh, really? Come on. I mean, not even like a busted windshield or anything.
And he gets up and goes. So it's like never happened.
He's like, well, see you later.
But that's the thing. That's why there's 2 of them, to like validate, like, okay, so I guess this is real or it isn't real, you know, to like play off of each other.
Right. And do you like how fucking amazing? Do you like how amazing Sam Neill is when he's like, oh, huh, he must have been okay, right?
Oh, well,
yeah.
I'm just an insurance investigator. I'm not worried about the liability of this at all.
Yeah, and then like as they're leaving, he's like, we'll report it to the police. Like, and the bitch is looking at him like, you're going to do what?
Fucking narc?
We're not going to do that at all.
Nope. So I have a theory as the rest of this movie unfolds that this is in the Groundhog's Day universe, and we'll get into why. Because she drives past the kid multiple times, and so it's this repetitious time motif, and we'll even see it come up later. And it's also, the idea is fucking terrifying if you realize that Bill Murray was locked in Punxsutawney Phil's hometown because of the Ancient Ones.
Wow.
It's a great idea. So they go to the Pickman's Hotel, and then it cuts to the church where Vigo from Ghostbusters 2 and his goon squad has the shotgun, and he's like, Johnny! And Kane appears in the place of a scowling child, and Dobermans attack the goons. And you're like, what is happening?
The whole Hellhound thing, man. It just seemed so played out. Like, I'm just like, okay, I get it. He's like supposed to be Satan.
Yeah.
And it's this evil dark church, and you know they have the placard on the front of the church. What is it? I mean, it's not something that's like from fucking As Above, So Below, but it's something similar, right? It's like anybody who enters here is like damned, essentially.
Something like that, yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like they could have gone without the dogs.
Whenever I see Dobermans in movies, I always think of Last Action Hero, where the bad guy like snaps his fingers and the Dobermans do like the human pyramid, but it's like the canine pyramid.
Yeah,
it's just hokey.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, when you see dogs and they're like the attack dogs, there's going to be someone that ultimately trips and falls.
Yeah, and it just looks bad.
It's
in the
guys.
day, and it's just like it's shot so static. You're like, okay, it's just a dog biting a guy. Like, this isn't anything. And then it cuts to like they go back to the hotel and go back there, and Stiles is making out with Sutter Cane, And Sutter Cane's just like this weird German guy. And you're like, all right, calm the fuck down, fella. Did any of that strike you?
No.
And so Stiles had kind of realized when they were at the hotel earlier, like, this is in the book. She even like points out the church and knows what window it is, and she's very specific. And they talk about the old lady who is
she essentially, what does he say? And hacks her husband into coleslaw.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of creative.
It's fun. I'd never seen that. Like, it's usually something meat oriented. So I have vegetables. I was like, all right, cool.
That's interesting.
And so when he interacts with her later, she's all acting twitchy and weird, and you see her
so fucking weird,
naked ass husband handcuffed to her ankle.
Super weird. I'm totally for that. I mean, it was completely out of left field, and it made no sense whatsoever. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna remember that.
Let's do it. People under the stairs style were like, why is that dude in a gimp suit? All right, let's just keep scene to scene. Let's keep it going. So then Vigo, you find out he kills himself, and he's not sure which came first, him or the book. Quote, I have no choice. He wrote me this way. That I want to explore that. Like, that's the most interesting part.
That's pretty
You don't
cool.
need aliens. You don't need all the others. That's the thing that's frustrating. It's like, that's the most interesting part to me.
Right. And you know what? This comes to me thinking like, okay, so does he write into the story that he's giving people free will at certain points? So they're able to think for themselves, right? And understand that they are being controlled. But the end, their ending is already written. So it doesn't matter.
Free will. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're thinking now, because everything's already predetermined, right?
It's the Christ parable where like, oh, well, if you choose to believe in Jesus, then you'll be fine. But it's like, okay, but if it's predetermined, then you should have intervened and you should have told me that Jesus was actually real.
Right.
Instead of a 2,000-year-old book that hasn't had an update since Latter-day Saints. You know what I'm saying? My phone, 1,000 updates a month. The old Bible, nothing. Come on, you assholes. But I feel like this scene really showed me this movie has the same kind of issue that They Live has, where it's like the tone of the film doesn't really evoke the severity of what's happening. That's a super intense idea, to feel like you're cognizant of the fact that you can't stop yourself from committing suicide. Dude, that's a really interesting idea. And it's just like, all right, it's almost played like for a gag, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So then you have Sam Neill. This pissed you off when he's hot wiring the car with a screwdriver?
Honestly, anybody who has their keys get swallowed by a crazy sadistic chick.
Oh, which made out of pasta.
That's made out of pasta. Yeah. You essentially MacGyver your way into starting a car.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You don't have no background experience in hot wiring a car whatsoever. But give me bubble gum, a toothpick, and a tennis
some celery.
ball.
Yeah.
I'll get this shit done. But it was super hokey and whatever. I mean, they needed to make the fucking car work, and apparently a flathead screwdriver made it work.
There you go.
I mean, I can guarantee you I can try that outside of my car and not the same results.
Just get the alarm going. Yeah.
Everybody would be super upset with me.
Seriously. Nobody would intervene. They'd just be like, God, that fucking car alarm is so annoying. So you get Stiles doing her, Pennywise or whatever, girl from the Ring bone breaking thing.
That was cool.
Cool, but the popping sounds were a little hokey for me.
Okay.
Apparently, Julie Carmen believed that the contortionist was actually related to director Robert Rodriguez.
Huh.
The more you know.
Interesting.
Jake still does research even in the hour-long episodes. Booyah. So this is the Groundhog Day escape scene where he's like, all right, getting out of town. Vroom. Okay, I'm back in town. Getting out of town. Vroom. Okay, I'm back in town. And then he drives through them. Yeah.
I think he should have, when he was driving through the crowd, you should have seen bodies fucking flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like the last person would have been her. And then he swerves.
Like that better?
Yeah. It just would have made a little bit more sense to me. It's because they're literally just a giant mass of people in the middle of the street. And he just guns it. Yeah. Right? So one would lead to another, but essentially it just shows him driving peacefully through this like crowd of people.
Seriously, you rev up that engine first. You send a message to these, mutated fucks.
These mutant goons from beyond.
Yeah, there you go. So he crashes into the pole, this anticlimactic thing, and he wakes up in a confessional booth with Kane, who says, more people believe in my work than believe in the Bible. And
dude, that's a crazy quote.
I think, therefore, you are. Oh, That's a god complex, isn't it?
No shit.
You get the pulsating door, and he says, "Here's my manuscript. I created you to deliver this into the world. I birthed you from my typing pussy so that you would go out there." That's what he said, right? Am I paraphrasing?
I think that's what he said.
Okay. And this is where Darth Vader's like, "What's up, man?" It's a weird movie,
It's
dude.
super weird, dude. The ending is just fucking crazy, right?
Yeah. And so it's an interesting effect when Kane is like ripping his face open with like through the page, and that was apparently done by ILM, Industrial Light, blah blah. So that was cool. And he takes the bus back to reality, and I love when he's like having the nightmare, and then Kane's like, "Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue?"
And then he wakes up and it's blue. Everything's blue, and you're just like, "I'm blue, and I bleed, and I'm blind."
Eiffel 65. I know what's up.
Yeah, buddy.
Dude, they also had a song about PlayStation. PlayStation. I'll never forget it.
Literally just spelled PlayStation.
Yep. I remember that song because I was like into PlayStation. I was like, this is awful.
They were really going somewhere, huh?
Oh, for sure. Going straight into the shit can. But okay, here's a question. Now, if this is here's a scenario. It's an either or. You have to pick one. You can't have both. Either you can only have sex once a week for the rest of your life, or you can have sex as many times as you want, but every time you come, you make the sound of Sam Neill screaming in the bus. Which do you choose?
I gotta admit, Sam Neill screaming, dude, all the fucking time. See, now that also poses a question. Who's going to want to do that with me at the time? I mean, essentially, it's just going to be me having sex with myself and then just
okay,
in the middle of the night.
Billy Idol? Oh, the walls are totally dancing with myself is about jerking off.
Is it really?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
I'm glad you explained. I'm glad you explained that to me because when you're like, "Oh, it's like Billy Idol," I was like,
"White wedding." Is the white cum?
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, gross. And then you find out that Stiles isn't real, which is the same exact plot twist as in Freddy's Dead. Freddy Krueger's daughter goes out with some kids because she's like a social worker, and she's like, "What's up?" She goes back to her boss. She's like, "I'm sorry all these fucking kids died." And he's like, "What kids? You left alone." And Charlton Heston's like, "What Stiles? You left alone."
Right. Yeah. He's like, "Well, you didn't read this, right? Well, okay, good. You have to pull this off the shelf." And he's like, "Too late. It's becoming a movie, motherfucker." Yeah,
right. I really love that when he's like, "Well, it comes out next week." And so it cuts back to the present, and you have the Dr. Dickhead from Exorcist is finishing his investigation. He's like, "I really don't believe that you're crazy, bruh." He's like, "Nah, dog, I'm totes cray."
Don't you see all this fucking sweet crayon, quote unquote?
Have you ever drawn on yourself with crayon?
I don't think that's a crayon.
I don't think so.
Is that mascara? I think that might be mascara.
I think he rubbed his butthole on his face.
And one crayon. I like how the doctor, the guy was just like, he only asked for one thing, a single black crayon. Yeah. And then all of the walls. And you're like, dude, how big was that single crayon? Because there's no way it lasted
3 feet long. Well, he's crazy. So the crazy guy asked for a 3 foot long black crayon. What am I supposed to do? So then Dr. Dickhead leaves, and there's monster sounds and everything. And then basically he's just like kind of waits for everything to blow over. And he just kind of leaves and is like, "What's up? I'm checking this out." And walking through the emptiness, and walks outside, and there's the overturned van, and there's the trash, and he walks by.
And then he sees the movie theater, and he's like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me go check this out." It's so fucking cheesy. He walks in with a big old bucket of popcorn. Right. You're just like, "Oh,
this
really?"
shit-eating grin on his face, like, "Okay, this is great."
Meanwhile, everybody's dead, right? So I guess he knows how to like turn on the movie. He knows how to like what theater is going to, and whatever. I'm overlooking.
It's just kind of weird, right? Because it's like, is this Kane showing him for him? Like, why is he showing his creation right? Like with the film, but he's loving it, and then it's over. So it's I love this movie. I'll be honest with you. I think it's for sure a classic. Did you watch the end credits?
I did not.
Okay. So they have the disclaimer from the American Humane Society. No animal was harmed in the making of this film. Underneath that, the human interaction was monitored by the Interplanetary Psychiatric Association. The body count was high. The casualties are heavy. It's super cool,
I
right?
like that. I like that. That's
way
funny.
to go for Lovecraftian. And so the cinematographer of this film, Gary B. Kibbe, just passed away. So I'd like to send our condolences out to his family.
R.I.P.
But he collaborated with John Carpenter on a bunch of stuff. So if you've liked John Carpenter's work, you probably liked his. So, Brian, did you think this was a classic, a tragic, or a tragic?
This is classic.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And like, we talked about it on the Slashers on Slash bonus episode for this week. This movie fails in some ways because it has a lot of potential. It's like so many good ideas put into one. Like, of all the movies we've talked about this year, this is the one where I'm like, dude, you could have made this like a series, like Castle Rock almost.
Yeah. As a first for me, as far as watching this film, I was pleasantly surprised. Nothing about this really kind of turned me off other than, little tidbits here and there that I feel like they could have just kind of completely done away with. But for the most part, they dip their toes into a little bit of everything. And I think that's kind of like, again, like you said, it's hard for you to kind of pinpoint what they did really, really well.
Yeah.
But they kind of just almost just smeared a lot of things around. And then they're like, hey, look, all of this sticks. Yeah. So we're going to run with it.
If you're a horror head and you've already read Lovecraft, you've already read Stephen King, like, this is great. It's got practical effects, it's got good acting, it's got some interesting story elements. But if you were like coming in and maybe let's say you only knew about Stephen King, you knew nothing about Lovecraft, or let's say you'd only seen Jurassic Park, so you only knew Sam Neill, I could see how you wouldn't like it. But this is just kind of our perfect blend of shit. So even though it like doesn't work, it's still, we like all of the pieces, if not the whole.
Right. Absolutely.
If not the butthole.
The buttholy trinity.
Oh, yay! We're bringing it back. All right, guys. So this was super fun. We want to thank you all for, staying with us. I know that now many of us are at home or not commuting because of the quarantine and everything. And, we just love you for downloading and listening. I mean, I'm sure you probably just listen. You know what you're probably doing? Probably avoiding your spouse, putting your earbuds in, listen to this. So if that's the case, I want you to look over to your wife right now or your husband and say, wow, babe, I certainly love you.
We appreciate you.
And then say, the guys from Slashers love you too.
Absolutely.
Sensually. They think about you while they're going heels to Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I think about other things. I think about baseball, which is the most boring thing in the world. So I don't.
How dare you, good sir?
Yeah, my dad had texted me very excitedly. He's like, hey, you want to go to a Houston Astros game? You can just talk shit. Because my dad knows. I grew up fat. Like, people tease. The thing I do best in life is talk shit. And so I was like, you get me, Dad? Like, you finally get me.
I was actually really looking forward to going to an Angels-Astros game because the Dodgers don't get to play the Astros during the regular season.
Oh, right, yeah.
The earliest you really get to see the Astros over here is when they come play the Angels. So a lot of Dodgers fans are basically going to crash the Angels game and just completely fucking decimate any Astros players that come up.
Because fuck them both.
Yeah, it's totally true. But at the same time, you're also in hostile
for sure,
territory. So
one team has an affiliation with Christopher Lloyd with Angels in the outfield.
Yeah, that's true.
One team fucking sucks. So
one team essentially ruined baseball.
Dude, bullshit. Like,
still
Pete
upset
Rose
about it.
Should not have been in the WWF Hall of Fame first. He deserves to be in the fucking baseball. It's crazy, right?
This is a horror podcast, not a baseball podcast.
Well, you know what?
That was horror, though. That was horrific.
It was. It was a blight upon our nation.
That's right.
Anyway, we love you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Stay safe. For our Patreon patrons, we love. Thank you all so much. Right now, I know it's trying times. If you guys want to get bonus episodes or anything, I'm happy to send it to you. Like I had said a couple weeks ago, if you want to just share the profile of the page or share a link,
oh my God, that
and
would
tag
help.
us. I'll send you a Patreon bonus episode.
That would help tremendously, especially with how many people are essentially online all of the time right now.
Yeah, we can't keep up. I mean, it's just, there's too much. We're just being drowned out, so I would legitimately appreciate it. You all know the algorithms censor a lot of horror stuff. So if you hashtag with horror, then you're getting pushed down. And then if you don't hashtag with horror, then you're like finding the wrong audience. Like, obviously we're a horror show. We're looking forward to next month. We're doing an April Fool's special, and hopefully it lifts your spirits, lifts your genitalia, gets them nips nice and hard, just
buddy,
rigid.
rock hard.
Yeah, I want you to be able to flick that thing and hurt your finger.
Yikes.
You know what I mean? So, Brian, is it time to say goodbye to these? boys.
Yeah. If you ain't watching them dying, you ain't really trying.
For Brian, for myself, everybody else who matters. For the puppies and the kitties and the hummingbird that made a nest right outside my front door. So nice. We love you. Be excellent to each other. And remember that all work and no power play makes Jack a dull boy.